Let's talk a bit now about recruiters. My chat box is filled up pretty quickly with all sorts of questions which diverge in that one critical place, which is how do I get the attention of an executive recruiter? When does that happen? What comes next? That's a loaded kind of thing, but let's start with, is that important? How do you get that person's attention? Is it really important?
So it is important, but it's important to know why, and it's important to know what sort of leverage you have, and it's important to know how. So let's talk first about understanding how the whole landscape of recruiting has changed. Back when I first started headhunting, if you had a senior level position you needed to fill, you would always just call a headhunter. That's just what you did, because they have access to network, Fortunately, I saw the writing on the wall in 2008 that access to network was going to be had by anyone with a LinkedIn account. And so that's when I started actually coaching my members to get on LinkedIn and to get visible on LinkedIn. And that's when I realized that, put it this way, I probably haven't sat down in 10 years to do a 200K plus search with a client that hasn't already searched their own LinkedIn network on LinkedIn. Then it goes to the headhunter. And in that case, when all that fails, it's usually because now they're looking for a needle in a haystack. So the way that the professional landscape has changed is you need to be the needle in the haystack. And you need to be optimized to be found for whatever that needle is, because LinkedIn is also utilized by recruiters, but recruiters pay for a membership that costs about $10,000 a year. It's great because it's leveled the playing field. It means that, in 2019, over half of the third-party searches that were filled for 200K roles by third parties were filled by independent practitioners. Just, like lone stars out there like me when I left my firm in 2008 with 2 multi-billion-dollar clients and a LinkedIn recruiter membership. So you're not going to know how to find them. It is 100% an inbound game. So if you're reaching out to them, their attitude now is like, look, I've got these 4 searches that I'm going to be working on. That's it. I need to fill them. It's my bread and butter for the entire year. So I'm not interested in anything you have to say, but finding this needle in this haystack for this client. And their view towards you is that if you're reaching out to them, your pull is never as good as push. Just think back to your dating years. You'll know what I'm talking about. But if they find you, okay, now you have leverage. If they found you because you were optimized for the exact value that you bring to the table, now you have leverage, okay? Put it this way, that is like if you were marketing a product and you found such a good value proposition for that product and you were able to get it into the eyeballs of the exact people that needed it and were willing to pay the money for it, now you have leverage. So in short, the recruiter is not the end all be all of everything, but you have to optimize yourself to be found by them when they're looking for you. You have to be optimized to be found by them correctly. So when they find you, you are actually what you're looking for. B, and you have to have a solid value conversation with them, because recruiters want to impress their clients, and they impress their clients with what that person that they're delivering to them is going to be able to do for them. And when that is your conversation, which is probably 1/3 of what we coach people on when it comes to the actual value conversation, now they're chasing you. They have something they can work with. And if you told your value story right, that might even click in their head for another client. And now they can go get themselves another job order, because job orders are slim pickings right now for senior level roles.
So I think we all get the needle in the haystack idea. And when we think optimize and presence in recruiters, many of us rush immediately to LinkedIn. Now that's a really big haystack. There are lots of shiny needles. What steps should a senior level person take to ensure or hedge their bets in favor of a recruiter noticing that particular needle in that giant haystack? What are some specific things I can do, say, with my profile and possibly even my wider presence? How do I act? How do I talk? How do I represent? Unpack that for us, please.
Oh, oh, all right. And that concludes our hour. So there's really no generic advice for this because everybody at this level, their situation is different and we would do different things. But if I had to give you an analogy, you said it's a really big needle and I mean, it's a really big haystack. Yeah, so is Google. And yet we search on there every day for things we want. It's the
Right.
same thing. So think of LinkedIn as like the Google where you go to find people. So the better you're optimized to be found, the better you're going to be looked at by the right eyes. Okay. And when I say right, I'm going to use the Google analogy really quick because if you look at how, and granted, Google and LinkedIn, their algorithms are secret. So, we just know this based on testing and it could change tomorrow. But we do know that if you're trying to optimize, let's say, your product on Google, and you want your product to be found by those that are looking for it, like me, looking for some very, very specific pictures that I wanted for my office. Okay. I was very specific about what I wanted. If you use some sort of clickbait just to get people to open it up, and then they open it up and realize that's not what I was looking for. That's called bounce rate. Okay. I opened it, not what I was looking for, and I left it. So that's not the game. The game is not to get them to open you or get them to look at your profile, which is the next step in the optimization. And that's where it gets really specific about what you need to do. The idea is to make sure that you're being found by the people who are looking for you. So the higher you go in your org chart that looks like a pyramid, okay, the more I like to use the analogy of a very rare book. Okay, so let's say you were a limited edition rare book. Now, back in the day, if you had a limited edition rare bookstore, you would rely on foot traffic to walk in and perhaps maybe by happenstance, either A, that person that was looking for that book finds it, or B, maybe you can convince them to get it. But that's not really how the world works anymore. Now, the guys in the back room listing that book on Amazon and serving coffee up front, and somebody out in India is going to be looking for that book and they're going to find it. And there's not going to be any question, how much is it? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to pay you that much. It's not going to be any question. It's going to be, what will it take? And that's the strategy that we use on LinkedIn. Number one, first off, is get you optimized to be found by the right people. So when I see all these taglines in the header, and taglines are good for some things to control the narrative. But if you understand how the algorithm works on LinkedIn, header is probably the most heavily weighted item on the whole algorithm. So if you're filling it up with like branding statements, that's not what your recruiter is searching for. You have to keep in mind, what is the recruiter searching for? What are the words they're using? Get you optimized to be found. And then step 2 and step 3 are like, what happens when they see your profile? How do we make sure that value pops out? That's very customized. And also, what is your brand awareness with your network? And just so I didn't lose any of you with that phrase brand awareness and you just go blah, if I hear that phrase one more time, let me give you an example of what brand awareness is. One of the searches that I was working on, and I found somebody on LinkedIn, because that's how I roll. And I talked to the guy and he said, look, I'm not really the right person for that job. but you know who the guru is for that. You need to talk to so-and-so. So I type him in and I'm like, wow, he is the CFO that can tell stories with data and da-da-da. Look, he's done a presentation on it. Oh my gosh, this is great. So he was perfect for the job, but he had never heard of the guy that referred him. I said, oh, he's referred to you by so-and-so. Kind of wanted to let him know it wasn't spam, but he's like, look, I don't know who that is, but yeah, it sounds great. So anyway, after he got the job, I wanted to thank the guy, but I told him, I said, look, he didn't even know who you were. And he said, oh, he wouldn't have known who I was. I saw him speak at a conference like 5 years ago, and I thought he was brilliant. And I connected with him on LinkedIn and I follow his stuff. So therein lies the magic of LinkedIn when it comes to branding. If somebody saw you speak at a conference 5 years ago, they would not remember you, okay? Even if they thought you were brilliant at what you were talking about, AKA, as the kids are calling it now, thought leader, okay? Now with LinkedIn, they're actually seeing you every day. Because they go onto their home stream, 600 million people on LinkedIn, 40% go on there every day and spend an average of 17 minutes, okay? Whether or not you show up on the home stream for your network has to do with your engagement and a lot of things on the algorithm, and that's, where it gets really specific, and that's what we work with you on.